Texas, we have a quarterback. See how number 11 ignited the Longhorns in a double OT thriller at DKR. Elsewhere, Texas soccer's unbeaten record was pushed right to the brink by a conference rival. And later, a fellow Southern school reminds us that sometimes the best things that happen in sports have nothing to do with sports at all. This is College Press Box.
Welcome to College Press Box. I'm Eric Goodman, and what a weekend it was here in Austin. We're glad you're ending it here with us. After beating Iowa State to get to the magic 1-0 in Big 12 play, Texas football hosted the Kansas State Wildcats on head coach Bill Snyder's 78th birthday. This one was a classic. Let's take a look. And here come those horns in search for a perfect division-leading Big 12. It's early, but Jesse Ertz, we're early in this game, and oh boy, Kansas State up 10, but that's all right. Sam Ehlinger, he's coming into his own pretty nicely, and so is Chris Warren. Look at this pretty swing pass. That's going to go for 33 yards and a touchdown. We're all right. Texas just down 3, and Kyle Porter. Let's take that up to, let's go up 4 now, 21-17 Texas. Jesse Ertz goes out with an injury, and that brings in Alex Delton. He's not trying to pass one bit. He's going to run this, and Texas can't stop it. He goes in, ties the game at 24, and now Sam Ehlinger in the fourth quarter looking for a game-winning drive. Texas just needs something, and Ehlinger's going to set him up for a field goal to win the game. But this is Texas, and field goals do not go in the final seconds to win games. So we're going overtime, and Ehlinger, he's not wasting any time. First play of overtime, he finds Gerard Hurd, former late-game Magic Man himself. And later, Delton, once again, he's going to force this into a second overtime. But Texas on defense forces K-State to a long field goal. Doink! It's no good. Texas escapes that possession, which means Ehlinger just needs anything here to give a win to Texas. Chris Warren, he's going to take some friends with him, but that'll do just nicely. No kicking nonsense here. Texas wins. Palm Squad, go nuts. Texas is 2-0 in Big 12 play. Oh boy. Wow, that was some fun football. And through all the chaos, our man, Matthew Adams, was on the field Saturday telling us how this one went down.
Whether it was the first half or the fourth quarter, it appeared Texas could lose to Kansas State. But as the Horns headed into their second overtime game of the season, it appeared the team had learned from its mistakes against USC.
When we went into overtime, I told the offense, I said, we've been here before, this is just like USC. I think it was Patrick Vahe looked at me and said, yeah, except we're going to win it this time.
Freshman quarterback Sam Ehlinger got his first Big 12 start, and he made the most of it. From passing 50 times to running the ball 20 times. Ehlinger said he was just responding to what the Kansas State defense gave him. Well, in that case, the Wildcats defense gave up nearly 500 yards of total offense to the freshman.
The way he plays the game, it's a little gutsy, a little, dicey here and there, but, I like it.
Sam is a tough kid. There's a lot of things that to the naked eye, he made a lot of freshman mistakes out there. So he's certainly got a lot of room for improvement. But I think, those mistakes he overcomes with tenacity and toughness.
Despite Ehlinger's performance and the team pulling it out in double overtime, they know who they've got next weekend. Oklahoma.
We've been thinking about that when we saw the Iowa State game earlier. And, we've been thinking about that. This is my last one, so I definitely want to go out with a good taste in my mouth because they got us last year.
This is the games you live for. These are the games where it's just an unbelievable feeling when you're sitting in the game and all you hear is noise the whole game, because if you're on defense, they're cheering. If you're on offense, they're cheering. And so it's very exhilarating, and I'm so excited to get back to Dallas.
From Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium, Matthew Adams, College Press Box.
We've got our man Jonathan Polasic here with us to break down this win. Jonathan, you got to take in all this from the stands at DKR. Must have been something else.
That place was rocking and rolling. It's a double overtime win. Texas absolutely needed this win. It looked a lot like USC. With a better result this time, though.
That's true, and for Texas fans, it's got to feel like a huge sigh of relief, because if you take away that game last season against Notre Dame, Texas in recent seasons has found some pretty bizarre ways to lose close games, but that didn't happen this week. What was different?
Something that's different, and whenever Texas plays Kansas State, they have to have a running game, whether it be the running backs or the quarterbacks. And while this game, the running backs had a real tough go of it, yeah, they scored a couple of touchdowns. Kyle Porter with 2, I believe, and Chris Warren with the 1 to seal the game. It was mainly Sam Ehlinger and his design quarterback runs or those off-scheduled plays where the pocket collapsed and he had to basically run for his life. I mean, he rushed for over 100 yards against Kansas State, and that was absolutely huge because when his initial reads weren't there, he was able to still keep the chains moving. Another group that I have to give credit to is that offensive line. They're down 2 starters, Connor Williams and Zach Shackelford. I wasn't exactly sure how they were going to hold up against Kansas State, but they kept Sam clean all night. He took 0 sacks, and that's something that's huge in order for Sam to keep his confidence up and basically play a strong game, hopefully for the rest of the season.
Yeah, you're right. There's still, it has to be said, there's plenty to clean up for Tom Herman, especially moving forward against Oklahoma coming up. And one of those things is the kicking game. Is there a solution to that problem, or are we just going to be holding our breath anytime Texas lines up for a 30-yarder?
Well, honestly, it seems like the kicking game's been a mess ever since Anthony Farrah's senior season. That feels like 30 years ago from now. I believe it's honestly just a mental thing with Josh Rowland. I mean, he won the job out of spring training for a reason. He can make kicks. It's just a matter of actually showing it in a game. I mean, game and practice, 2 completely different situations. But I believe that if he can see 2 or 3 kicks go through the uprights in a row, I believe that'll get his confidence up, and I believe you can start to see why Texas recruited him to be their kicker. Another problem is that Texas has had major issues with quarterbacks who can run. We saw it this past weekend with Alex Delton. He shredded the Longhorns defense all throughout the 4th quarter and into overtime. I believe he threw the ball maybe what seemed like once. He was just running left and right all over that defense. They still have guys like Baker Mayfield and Kenny Hill on the schedule. If they can't stop those two, if that defensive line can't keep those quarterbacks contained, they're going to have a rough go of it the rest of the season.
So this week is the big one. It's in Dallas. It's Texas OU, and while Texas is coming off a pretty peak confidence with that win over Kansas State, Oklahoma, it's a different story. They just lost to Iowa State, 30-point home favorite in that game. So how good can Texas feel going into this one?
I think Texas can feel pretty good. I mean, Oklahoma, like you said, that was a massive upset. And they're going to be looking to reestablish themselves as not only Big 12 contenders, but also college football playoff contenders. And Texas, they want to prove that this game wasn't a fluke. They want to prove that they're on the upswing in the Big 12. So one thing that we should all look out for is how those defenses fare on both sides. Oklahoma's defense hasn't looked very good these past couple of weeks against Baylor and Iowa State. That secondary in particular has looked very suspect. So that's one thing. If Texas, whoever starts at quarterback for Texas against OU, if they can attack that secondary consistently and if they get results, they'll have a good shot of winning this game. On the other side, Texas, their defense, they played pretty well throughout the season. I mean, with the one outlier being at Maryland. And now, while Kansas State did move the ball pretty well against this defense, I believe that if they generate the pressure that they have been these past couple of weeks, including at Kansas State, if they keep Baker Mayfield contained, they have a great shot of basically racking up sacks, racking up quarterback hurries, and they take as much time as they can away from the Texas secondary to cover those speedy OU receivers, which once they break free, they're gone. Baker Mayfield's going to hit them downfield.
Yeah, you mentioned in there whoever starts at quarterback for Texas, it's got to be Sam Ehlinger, right?
I would hope so.
It has to be. It has to be. He looks too good.
He performed admirably, and like I said, with that patchwork O-line, you couldn't have asked for anything better.
All right, Jonathan, thanks for the insight. Always good, partner. We'll take a quick break, but on the other side, a couple of other top 10 Texas teams laced up this past week, and one of them nearly saw a school record come to an end. Stick around. Welcome back to College Press Box. I'm lucky to have Hannah Nevlud here with me for the next few minutes. Hannah, some UT students had a tough decision this weekend. ACL Music Festival or Texas football? Where do you stand?
Texas football all the way, Eric. It was a barn burner, and it was well worth it to miss out on the music.
Fair enough, I have to agree.
Texas men's tennis was at the ITA All-American Championships this past week in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The 22nd ranked Harrison Scott won his second 3-set match and held off Texas A&M's Jordi Arconada to advance to the quarterfinals on Friday, as well as teaming up with Texas sophomore Yuya Ito to reach the doubles quarterfinals. The Longhorns duo of juniors Rodrigo Banzer and Leonardo Tellez would join them in the quarters. Ito and Scott knocked off Tulane's Lewis Erlenbush and Tyler Schick, while Banzer and Tellus outlasted Georgia's Nathan Ponwith and Emil Reinberg. However, the Longhorns were all eliminated on Saturday. Scott was defeated by top-seeded Michael Torpengard of Ohio State. Ito and Scott fell to William Blumberg and Robert Kelly of North Carolina. Banzer and Tellus took a loss to Johannes Ingelsson and Alfredo Perez from Florida. Texas men's tennis goes to San Antonio this Friday through Sunday for the UTSA Cup.
Texas had not one but two Longhorns in the semifinals of the USTA Pro Circuit event this week in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Two Longhorns who happen to know each other pretty well. Anna Tarati advanced out of the qualifying bracket to the Final Four, where she fell to top seed Ulrike Ikari. On the other side of the bracket, twin sister Bianca Tarati won her semifinal, advanced to the final, where she too couldn't get past Ikari. Next up for Texas is the ITA Texas Regional Championships up the road in Fort Worth this week.
Number 20 Texas men's golf climbed one spot on Tuesday to conclude the Nike Golf Collegiate Invite in 8th place at Pumpkin Ridge Golf Club. Senior Doug Gim had the best round of the tournament for the Longhorns, picking up an eagle and 3 birdies to finish the third round at 4 under 67, tying for 18th overall. Senior Scotty Scheffler finished behind him, starting his round with 3 straight birdies, adding 1 more on 18 between 11 pars and 3 bogeys to tie for 27th. Sophomore Spencer Sussman finished tying for 33rd with freshman Christopher Wrighton. Junior Steven Schiavone tied for 62nd. Texas finished 23 strokes behind Oklahoma, who clinched the tournament title with an overall score of 27 under 825. Texas will return to action on October 20th at the Golf Club of Georgia Collegiate Champion in Alpharetta, Georgia.
Texas women's golf teed up at Olympia Hills in Montana early this past week at the Annika Intercollegiate, and this one was all about senior star Sophia Schubert. The U.S. women's amateur champ destroyed the course in her second round with a 5 under 67 and finished the tournament at 3 under, good enough for a tie for 7th place. Texas as a whole finished in a tie for 4th. Today they began work at the Betsy Rawls Invitational here at UT Golf Club.
Number 5 Texas volleyball swept TCU in Fort Worth this weekend in 3 sets, outscoring them 75-55. Sophomore Micaiah White led the Longhorns with double-digit kills for the 11th straight match. She finished with 12 kills, only committing 3 errors on 31 swings, while adding 7 digs and 2 blocks. Senior Ebony Wanabu equaled a senior season high of .500 hitting percentage on 8 kills with no errors, also adding 4 blocks, as well as freshman Lexi Sun posting 9 kills with only 2 errors on 17 swings for a .412 hitting percentage. The Longhorns go to Kansas this Wednesday for their next Big 12 matchup.
Texas soccer saw their perfect season finally end at 11 games with a draw last week in Norman, but still came into this past weekend ranked 7th in the nation and without a loss on the record. On Friday night, the Horns hosted TCU, looking to get back to their winning ways, but instead, they got another overtime slugfest and their closest brush with defeat so far this season. TSTV's Christine Taylor was on the touchline.
On Friday night, the Longhorn soccer team went head-to-head against TCU, resulting in their 3rd consecutive overtime game and their 2nd straight tie. After a corner taken by sophomore Emma Jett, junior Kyra Dallas was able to score the first and only goal for the Longhorns.
Usually on our corner kicks, we have like a new corner kick, so I'm kind of like hidden. It's hard for me to kind of see the ball, but Emma always places the ball like perfectly right towards the back post. So I try my best to just get up and get over it and not try to hit it over. Yeah, I saw the opportunity and she hit it like literally perfect right on the line, so I just took the shot with my head. So.
The fire from Texas's hot start seems to be fading as the regular season winds down. The challenge for Angela Kelly will be to keep the Longhorns feeling confident, like they belong in the conversation of the best teams in the nation.
I think we were running in and out. We had some good touches on the ball. We made efforts to get shots off. It just didn't go our way, I don't think. So.
Yeah, I thought, it took us a little bit to get settled in, and we did some okay things in the first half. Needed to take our opportunities better. We needed to get the ball on the floor, and we just lacked a little bit of composure in the attacking third, which is uncharacteristic for this squad. We continue to have success. The bullseye is going to continue to get bigger, and it's our job as a staff to help our young players to accept that, understand that, and surpass that.
For Coach Kelly, the goal will be to avoid this potential midseason slump as the Longhorns play this Friday, October 13th at Kansas at 7 p.m.
Thanks to Christine for that, and to you, Hannah, for coming here and for your reports with me. When we come back, it's the much-anticipated return of Joe Morris and now added Nick Kuholtz on Unhooked. You won't want to miss it.
Welcome back to this week's segment of Unhooked. Joe Morris here with my colleague Nick Kuholtz.
Come on!
And we're bringing you all the exciting action from this weekend.
As we head to Buffalo, New York, and in overtime, the Bulls played host to Western Michigan in a matchup, and here on this 5-yard touchdown pass, the blue and white will take a 38-31 lead. They would go on to lose 71-68 in 7 overtimes. We head from Buffalo, New York, to the town that every human being dreams to live in, Norman, Oklahoma. OU with a cakewalk game at home against Iowa State. We start off in the fourth quarter. OU up big, or wait a second, Iowa State is actually winning by 7. But no worries for Sooner fans. Baker Mayfield finds, he's sacked on a play for a 10-yard loss. That's weird. Fast forward later in the game, just over a minute left. Baker, we know he loves to dance here. He's dancing around the pocket, just mocking these Iowa State defenders. But it's 4th down, incomplete, turnover on downs. Iowa State with their best play of the day, which isn't getting the turnover and winning, but rather getting out of the city of Norman. Joe, before the game, OU's quarterback Baker Mayfield said he didn't come to OU to win a Heisman Trophy. He came to win a national championship. What better way to get to the national title than to lose to unranked Iowa State at home?
Oh my God, this is an incredible loss for Oklahoma. The committee's going to be looking at this loss and they're saying, oh my God, this only solidifies Oklahoma's standing. They're easily going to get in the playoffs with this kind of loss.
I think so too.
Well, now that's all for highlights. Let's get into our famous top 5 plays of the week. We start with you at number 5, and Jake Bolmick, SFA quarterback, goes deep, passes the ball, and it is incomplete. Oh, at the quarterback's knees.
Number 4, Kyle Hendricks on the mound in the NLDS. Daniel Murphy up to bat. 3-0 count here on the play. Just outside, ball 4.
Take your base. And at number 3, Finland and Croatia. He goes for it all, and he's just off.
Number 2, this one truly is wild. Stars Golden Knights. Jamie Benn getting a little warmed up here. Cody Eakin, nice stretch of the knee. They're getting ready for that one.
And a thrilling number 1. We go to the Eagles, Cardinals. Carson Wentz gets the ball. He's looking deep. He's thinking deep. He's throwing deep. Nelson Aguilar with the catch. Oh, a burn. Turn on the burners. Oh, out of my face, pal. Oh, he's going to coast to the end zone. He's going to fall to the end zone. Eagles get the touchdown. Eagles get the win, 31-7. And that's a wrap, folks. We're going down.
That's all for this week's episode of Unhooked Edition, rather. Always a pleasure to be joined by Joe Morris and hear his wonderful insight. When we return, Eric Goodman will give us the upcoming schedule for this week in Longhorn sports. We'll be right back.
Thanks for sticking with us here on College Press Box. Let's give a look to the Texas sports coming up in this week's schedule. Monday, we got men's tennis and women's golf both in action. On Wednesday, women's volleyball is on the road against Kansas. It's always a tough-fought game in conference. On Friday, women's soccer also at Manhattan for the Jayhawks. Saturday, got some rowing, got some track and field, but the one you're not going to want to miss, third from the bottom there, football versus Oklahoma. That's a big game. That's, a lot of people are going to probably be watching that on TV. You can catch it on ESPN at 2:30. And then women's volleyball that night will be here on Longhorn Network if you want a taste of a little Austin action if you can't make it to Dallas. Friday through Sunday across the weekend, we got a lot of tennis in action. And then on Sunday, more tennis for the women's. And then women's soccer is back here once again against the Kansas State Wildcats. 9 years ago last February, I was 11 years old in my grandparents' living room. And I was trying not to cry as I watched Eli Manning lead my New York Giants on a miracle last-minute drive to win Super Bowl 42, stunning the undefeated New England Patriots in what is still to this day the greatest sports moment of my life. But just under 2 hours before that drive happened, on that same night, on that same TV broadcast, I saw, or more accurately, I heard something that impacted me just about as much as that Giants victory. The halftime show of Super Bowl 42 was played by a band called Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. It was the first time I ever heard the songs American Girl, Free Fallin', and I Won't Back Down. Fast forward to this past May, I got to see Tom Petty, who had by then become my single favorite musician of all time, perform those songs right here at UT's Irwin Center. It was special not because of how well Tom sounded, and he did sound great, but it didn't matter because you could almost never hear his voice over the entire crowd belting out his songs at the top of our lungs. 1 week ago today, Tom Petty died of a heart attack at the age of 66. In memory of the Gainesville, Florida native, on Saturday during their football game against LSU, the University of Florida gave us one of the coolest moments you're ever going to see in or out of sports. At the end of the third quarter, I Won't Back Down played over the loudspeakers, and just like usual, you couldn't hear Tom's voice if you tried. Take a listen. Nowhere I would have rather been at that moment on that day. We'll be back next week to break down the Red River Shootout and all the other good stuff you get from us here on College Press Box. Until then, from everyone at TSTV Sports, you saw tonight and everyone you didn't, have a beautiful night.